So now I'm going to use this small boring bar to put a little counter bore on the front face there. And just deburr that with one of these deburring tools. That was the deburring tool that I used then. Before I take it out, I'm going to just skim the diameter again so that it's true with the actual thread. So now I can turn it round again and hold on that trued up diameter and put the live centre in that centre drill hole that I did earlier. So lock up the tailstock and pull it out on that one and tighten the jaws down on that diameter. and then I can just turn it round and blend in the other end. And then I can give that a bit of a polish. Whenever I do polishing on the lathe, I take the tools off the tool post. And that's the pot finished apart from the lid. So to make the lid, I'm using the 21mm diameter bar again, and I'm leaving it far enough out so that I can actually knurl it after I've done the actual thread on it. .395, and I've got to be 383 roughly. So now I'm going to do the finish turn and the undercut. So now I have my 1/8 BSP die, and it's in my homemade holder. And I do the die cut a couple of times after cleaning it the first time. And that's the thread finished. Apart from a bit of a deburr. And now I'm going to use just a single straight knurl and see what that looks like. And that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to use my 45 HSS tool again, and I'm going to put a 45-degree angle on the back there and a couple of decorative grooves. And before I part it off, just centre drill it and drill with a 1/8 drill about 1/2 inch deep. And before I part it off, I just give the end of the thread there a bit of a deburr and check that the component screws home. And that one's good. And lastly, it's just a case of turning it around and facing off this end and putting a couple of decorative grooves in the top. And that's the top part finished. Right, so this is the finished oil part. You can see the counterbore there has a nice finish on it, and this has the undercut on there, and the actual counterbore is for the O-ring to sit on. With O-rings, you can get a nice set of O-rings, a box set of O-rings online fairly cheaply. This O-ring here, say, is too loose. You can see that it actually fall off, or very nearly fall off. Just choose any O-ring that's near the size, and it'll reasonably easily just stretch over the thread there and drop into that undercut. Then when the lid or the top is screwed on, that O-ring goes down into that little counterbore, and as I screw it home I can feel the tension or the resistance on the O-ring, and that's the squeeze on the O-ring. So it's roughly about that much of a turn. Now if the counterbore was too deep, you could actually screw it home and you wouldn't feel any resistance at all. You wouldn't be able to feel the rubber causing any resistance. So what you would do then, you would put this back up in the lathe again and probably face off about 10 thou, deburr the thread and then try it again. and as soon as you got that feel of the O-ring squeeze, that'll be perfect and it won't leak. And when dealing with O-rings, it's best to make up a tool like this. This is a piece of 1/8 stainless steel, and just wound round to make a bit of a handle, bent round at this end here. Then it's sharpened up or flattened off either side, rounded off, and all the sharp edges are taken off of it. And you use this tool for getting the O-rings off. You can actually work it in under the O-ring without damaging it, like that, and then just ease the O-ring off. So that's a great little tool to make up, and you can get the O-rings out of grooves or the undercuts with that tool. So to make the oil dipstick, I've got a piece of 1/8 brass rod, and I've put a very slight groove there on the corner of a grinding wheel, and this end here I've rounded off on the grinding wheel, and just put a little bit of Loctite in that ground groove. The Loctite 638 again, and then that one goes into that drilled hole. And tap it home. Wipe off the excess Loctite 638, and that's the dipstick done. Then you test the length of it again and see that it screws home. That one won't go down because it's too long, so I need to cut off about 5 or 6 millimeter. I'll cut off about 10 mil, and then just round that off on the grinding wheel again. And that one will then screw home, and you know that the dipstick is down nearly the full length of the actual oil part. And then to finish off the dipstick end, to make a bit of a spoon or blade end, put a thick piece of metal into your vise, or if you've got an anvil or something, and just use a hammer to knock that one. And then you have a nice end. And that's the oil pot finished. So that's the finished oiler, and I'm really pleased the way it's turned out. They're very nice little things to make up, and like I say, if you collect up all different types of tube when you go to car boot sales or whatever, you can use those garden spray pumps, those old vintage ones, things like that, candlesticks, anything that's got tube on it. Save it all up and you can make great little items like this one. And I have actually upgraded this oiler since I started the video. I made another top, and then I drilled through with a 6mm diameter drill right the way through, and then I got a length of army paracord and made a nice lanyard which can go around my neck, or you can actually tie it to a rucksack or your gun bag or whatever, and that saves the oiler from getting lost. So you can make up all different types and make them more decorative. I've put a nice little brass ferrule on there to make it look nice, and like I say, if you make them out of brass they look absolutely brilliant.